Hello, my name is Rich Nolan from Nolan Engineering in New York. Today we're going to go over an inspection I had a couple weeks ago. Today is January 23rd, 2021. I want to start to put up more of these inspection videos. Ideally, I would actually video the inspection, but that's not always possible as a lot of the time people are there that would just be very awkward. So this video will just feature the pictures that I've taken during the inspection along with descriptive narrative of the problem and what we determined to be the cause. So background on the house. I did not take an outside picture when I was there, but this was taken from Google. The house was built in 1875, so most likely it's a post and beam. It was founded on a stacked stone foundation. Most of the foundation was walkable, but there was a crawl space area, and the crawl space area was under the floor that was sagging. The house was found to be very well maintained. Outward inspection of the house found no problems. So we received a phone call from a client who had three problems basically going on with his home. One problem was he had a sagging floor. Another problem is he was experiencing several cracks in the molding in his house. And another problem is one of his windows actually displaced inward. He said he was sleeping and he heard a pop and the top of his window moved inward. So he was very concerned that something might be going on with this foundation. Another important thing I forgot to mention, the owner had recently purchased the home, I believe 3 months prior to my inspection. The first thing he showed me was a bunch of cracking in the moldings about the ceiling. There was also some cracking in the wood trim along the stairs leading to the upstairs, and some separating of the caulking and trim where the trim at the door met the wall. I think most or all of the cracking in the molding was where the molding was spliced together. It had that opened up a gap where the molding ends butted together. All of the cracks appeared to be vertical. There was no horizontal or diagonal cracking. All the cracks did also appear to be in the molding and not in the walls themselves. The next thing I looked at was the window that had popped in. The window appeared to have just displaced inward at the top. Um, the wall itself appeared to be, well, was measured to be very plumb. There was no cracking in the walls. Inspection of the outside, we had recently had a big snow. I looked up at the roof and it did not appear that the roof would have shed any snow into the roof that may have, fallen off the roof and hit the window and broken in. He claimed, the owner claimed that there was no impact. There were no trees nearby. The wall itself appeared to be in good condition. The exterior trim was still intact on the wall, and the wall was plumb. The top of the window had simply broken inward. There was no evidence of any water or decay in the wood, so that was a bit puzzling. We had experienced high winds, I believe, during the time that that occurred, and it did occur at night while he was sleeping and he was awoken by the sound. The floor, coincidentally, in the room where the window popped in, the room was about 14 foot by 14 foot square, was located over a crawl space with a wood floor. The floor was a little bit bouncy, so the crawl space underneath the floor was inspected. And what was found is there was, true, I believe there were 2 by 10 floor joists which span the entire 14 feet. However, at third points, they had some beams and wood posts. The beams were 4 by 4 or 6 by 6, I believe, um, laid flat at the bottom of the floor joist, and there was 6 by 6 posts that went from the beam down to the ground, and there was another 6 by 6 post on the ground where the bottom of the post would sit on. So basically, you had a 6 by 6 horizontally underneath the floor joist, a 6 by 6 laying on the ground, and then posts in between. And what was found was several of the posts had actually fallen out, just fallen out, and were laying on the ground. The 6x6 that was laying on the ground supporting the bottom of the post was actually sinking into the ground. And because the post had fallen out, the beam was cantilevered, 4 to 6 feet in some spots. Okay, next we're going to discuss the findings. So we went to the house to inspect those three issues: the cracking in the molding, the window displacement, and the sagging floor. And this was a determination. The window, I determined there was no observable structural deficiency or reason that that window should have popped in at the top. The wall appeared to be in excellent condition, very plumb, was measured with a 4 foot level. There was no sign of impact to the window, and we didn't rip into the wall. So my theory there is that windows are attached to the stud on the left and right through screws. So someone did a poor job attaching the top of the window to the stud on the left. Possibly, but not likely, could be some insect damage around that connection or some wood decay, although the wall appeared to be very dry, where that connection just let go. So there was nothing structural determined to that. I believe wind just knocked it in. Um, and that's just going to have to be, the trim's going to have to be pulled off the inside of that window. That window's going to have to be taken out. The wood to the left and right that supports the window is going to have to be inspected to make sure it's sound, and then appropriate and proper screws will have to be installed in that window and that window reset. The floor was much more obvious. The floor joist spans 14 feet, was a little bit too much for that older wood, and the beams that they had subsequently installed after to help support the floor were not sufficient, as most of the posts, or a lot of the posts, had fallen out. The owner did subsequently contract with us to design a new beam. Um, we're just going to put one beam down the middle. We're going to put it on nice concrete footings, and we're going to secure the posts at the top and the bottom so there's no chance of them falling out. During the process of installing the beam, hydraulic jacks can be put in, and that floor can be jacked to a more level position, and then the beam set. So that was a pretty straightforward and obvious problem. Next, we'll talk about the cause of the cracking in the molding. That was probably what was most concerning to the owner, as he started seeing um, cracking, and when people see cracks in their walls and molding, can be very upsetting. He was worried about maybe his foundation shifting. However, the cracks were most all in the butted ends of the molding. They were also vertical. The walls themselves did not have cracking. If there were diagonal cracking in the wall, that would be a sign of foundation movement. Also, the owner stated that he recently saw the separation or cracks in the molding, and the house was built in 1875. I would not um, expect a problem to suddenly occur. So, what I had told him, and I've seen this several times before, is that he is probably not using the same humidity set. Well, first I asked him if he's been, because he was moving in, if he was living in the house, if the house was heated during the day, and he said yes, the heat was always on, the house was always conditioned. And then I said, well, I think what you're doing is you're not having your humidifier on your furnace set at the same level that the previous owners had it set. And the wood is very susceptible to shrinkage as it dries out. Your molding, your wood is shrinking, and those gaps are opening up. And upon saying that, he had said, about a month ago, they had two furnaces in the house. About a month ago, the one upstairs broke, and therefore that humidifier was not working. So that was further evidence that the gaps in the wood molding was due to a different and lower humidity setting. I've seen that several times. Um, so the good news is that was not a structural problem. and recommended that the humidifier be fixed and the constant humidity setting be achieved. And mostly this does occur during the winter, and it's very cold and dry here in New York, and you see that happening. So that was the analysis on the house. It was not a huge structural problem. The window just has to be reset, fix the furnace, maintain a constant humidity setting, and add a new floor support beam for the floor and the crawl space. Okay, thank you for watching. Once again, this is Rich from Nolan Engineering in upstate New York.